Go, Fritz.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
The Bears. The Bears.
I am the great Cornholio.
We'll see what happens.
The playoffs?
See, Sean McDonough, Jay Billis. Goats!
Can you play a song? Something cool. Put my mic on!
I'm calling both games.
Oh, baby! You so
Goes down the field for Smith.
Oh, he got it!
Seattle. We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
So I think what people commonly misunderstand when I give you these numbers, right? When I give you how these teams have done over the past, 20 years or whatever, I think people misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying, oh, just because they haven't beaten, so-and-so enough times, that means they're going to be bad. All I'm saying is, here is what they have done against Power 5 in the past. This is the pattern that they have illustrated to themselves and everybody else in college football. And then I'm also looking at just how and I'm looking at their records overall. And, you take a look at UCF, for example. They're in the American Athletic Conference, not one of the stronger conferences. And if they can't win 7 games, right, like just for example, I'll pull it up real quick. If UCF let's say in 2019, so from 2017 to 2019, where they were really good, but like I think 2017 they were undefeated, 2018 they were 12-1, and 2019 they're 10-3. That's fair, right? That's a great record, all right. And we can argue about strength of schedule till the cows come home. 2015 though they were 0-12. 2016 they're 6-7, and last year in the fake COVID year they were 6-4. So, I think if you are in a conference like the American Athletic, and you're in such a weak conference like that, I think in order for me at least, in order for you to prove to me that you are for real and that you can go into the Big 12 and win a lot of games and compete for a Big 12 championship, I think you need to show me that you can consistently dominate in the American Athletic. And for UCF, they more or less have done that, despite a few bad years. But I don't know. I think that UCF, right? It's easy for me, and this is where I kind of go back to what I said about it, 5 weeks ago or whatever. When you're in a weak conference such as the American Athletic, it is, again, you can go 10-3 and that's great. However, you go 10-3, you look at the schedule, and when your 3 losses are all to top 25 or Power 5 teams, then I'm saying, well, wait a minute, how good are you actually? And and then your 10 wins come against garbage teams. And then that's when I start to question things. And that's what we've seen from these teams that everybody is hyping up. And I don't know. I'm just not seeing it right now. I think, for me at least, when I look at these new teams in the teams that will be in the Big 12, the new ones, right? Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF. The thing that I want to know, and the thing that whenever I'm learning something, or whenever I am, seeing how something will do, or when I'm kind of experimenting, I guess you'll say, I want to see them be put in that environment before I make a claim or make a statement on what I think is going to happen. And the best that I have on this is how they've played against Power 5 teams in the past. And I know that a lot of people get their panties in a bunch because that that maybe doesn't illustrate the whole point correctly, and I understand that completely. But and people misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not taking their record against Power 5 teams and saying, oh, that's it. Just because they didn't beat Stanford back in 2015, that means they can't beat that means they're going to be garbage in the Big 12. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is this is how they've done against Power 5 competition in the past, and combine that with not being in a strong conference already, all of a sudden they get put into a much stronger conference than they're used to, and I just don't know how that's going to shake out. I mean, common sense just tells me maybe they're not going to be as successful as everybody thinks they are. And, again, I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. These teams could join the Big 12 5 years from now, 4 years from now, whenever it's going to be, and they could dominate. I could be very wrong about this, and that's always a possibility, right? At this point, and this is why I always laugh at people that get really upset about things, because right now, all that anybody is doing about these teams joining the Big 12, all that anybody can do right now is speculate, right? You can't say, oh, I just hopped in my DeLorean, went to 2025, got back, and let me tell you, you are absolutely wrong. Cincinnati just won the Big 12, 3 years in a row or whatever, right? Nobody has any evidence to say, like, no, they're going to dominate, or they did dominate. That's not how that works. All that anybody can do right now is speculate. And, I just saw all these people, CBS Sports, whatever, all the talking heads say, these teams are going to be really good in the Big 12, and I just don't know how you can say that without seeing them play a full season of Power 5 competition. And people jump down my throat, oh, not every Power 5 team is good. Yeah, I know that. I get that. Thanks for the info. The sky's blue. But what my point is, consider this. You're in the American Athletic Conference. You get maybe 3 or 4 tough opponents a year. And if you're in the Big 12 all of a sudden, you're getting a tough opponent almost every week. Because not only are you playing, because for teams that right now are in the American Conference, you are getting tough teams at the beginning of the season in your non-conference slate, and then maybe you get 2 or 3 tough ones in the in conference play as well. You're in the Big 12. You're getting a tough game or 2 in the non-conference slate, and then about half your regular season schedule is tough as well. So that's like 6 or 7 games that are tough against good teams, and from a team that's not used to that, right? I think the first year, there's no doubt in my mind that most of them are going to struggle. Maybe not Cincinnati, maybe not BYU. I'm not too sure about BYU just yet. Again, and this is the other thing. People are and again, kind of go back to what I said, how I could be very wrong about this whole thing. This is kind of what I'm going based off of in the past 5 years, past 6 years, like right now. The guys that are on Cincinnati right now, those players, and people are saying, wow, look at Cincinnati. They're so good this year. And, like, okay, yes, they are. But look at when Cincinnati's going to be in the Big 12. Almost none of those guys, if any, are going to be on the team when they join. So how does that transfer? And like I said, Cincinnati could take this good year, and maybe that's where they start to turn things around. I don't know. It's going to be only time will tell. But I don't know. I think that before we crown these 4 teams Big 12 champions, I think we need a little bit of a reality check, and we need to realize, hey, it's really tough when you join a much tougher conference. I mean, look at for the Big Ten, for example. A few years ago, I think maybe 5 years ago, right? Maryland and Rutgers joined the Big Ten, and I'm not so sure about Rutgers, but I know from the Maryland side of things, everybody was saying, wow, this is such a great move for football. Maryland is going to elevate their football program, which they have to a certain extent, but I don't think as much as a lot of people were expecting. The word on the street was, wow, they're going to elevate their football program. And honestly, right now, Maryland's football program, to me at least, is no better than it was 4 years ago. I think the football program has gotten, slightly better for Maryland, if that. But this isn't like you take a look at Maryland now compared to when they were in the ACC and say, wow, what a drastic jump in their football program. That's not the case. And I think what people kind of tend to forget when they think about new teams joining a conference is it takes a good amount of time. It takes about 5 to 10 years for a team to elevate their skill, to elevate their skill up to par with whatever conference they join, especially when it's such a drastic change, such as American Athletic Conference to Big 12. That's a huge jump. And I don't know how all of a sudden you go from playing Tulane and Tulsa and Houston and USF and SMU. I don't know how you go from playing those teams to all of a sudden playing Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Kansas State. The list goes on there. I don't know how you say that these teams are going to have the same success against subpar. Because if you take a look at subpar Big 12 teams against the best of I guess you could say the best of the American Conference, and I take the Big 12 teams every time. You take Iowa State against, I take Iowa State or Oklahoma State against Cincinnati, and I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game, right? And we can throw around ifs and buts all day, but that's my point. I just kind of want to, and I'll readdress that later on when we get to each team. But I think a lot of people misunderstand what I'm using these numbers for. I'm not using these numbers to say, wow, look, they didn't beat Stanford 6 years ago, so they can't do anything when they join the Big 12. That's not my point, and I think that that's something that